Hey Ramblers. So I'm right away following up with a different video, not a review. No, this is actually going to be a spoiler talk, and hopefully I have enough time to finish all my thoughts today while it's nice outside. I'm in the shade. Anyways, this is about Obsession. So spoiler talk for Obsession. And I had a bunch of thoughts about this movie. Speaks to how good it was and the fact that it's still like on my mind. And one of the things that I've wanted to vocalize a little bit is the, although it's obviously not the filmmakers or the writer's intentions for it to be viewed in this light, but it's just a potential interpretation that this movie left itself open enough for it to be plausible enough. But I noticed that this movie, with how the One Wish Willow functions in it, could be accepted or at least viewed in a theological slant. Generally speaking, in a lot of like literary depictions or like famous like cultural depictions of, like, say, the devil, so to speak, he's not necessarily like a physical direct power in terms of just like a sorcerer, like a magic willing all-powerful being, you know, of pure evil wanting to cover a whole world in shadow, but it's more so like a corrupting force exploiting man's innate weakness and susceptibility to sin and temptation and all that to fail moral, you know, tests, you know what I mean? An example of that is how devil's portrayed as like an androgynous sort of fair but foul feeling person in Passion of the Christ, when Jesus is praying in the garden and all that, and he's tempting him to not do the sacrifice, right? And Mel Gibson famously said that he picked that depiction because the devil's way more clever than that. If he's going to tempt you, he's going to take a very visually like acceptable, like non-assuming form, right? He's not going to show up as outright evil, otherwise people are going to be like, oh no, fuck you, and I'm not going to do that, you know. He's a deceiver, right? And I guess that's kind of how Tolkien did Sauron in the same way, you know. He's a deceiver, you know. He's not outright, and the influence of the ring is more so in temptation rather than outright possession. The ring preys on people's innate weaknesses and vulnerabilities and all that, right? And so I think the One Wish Willow functions much in the same way, to where you could interpret it as like some sort of form of the devil. And other pop culture sort of interpretations of said devil, I noticed, is that he ropes you into bad contracts, though he always abides by the terms of the contract. So much of the people, his victims, don't read the full terms of the contract and just kind of go in it, not, weighing the consequences until they're already locked in. And well, he always abides by that contract. So when Bear gets it, he doesn't take it seriously enough, like any of us. So he doesn't think to read the box all the way through, call the number, ask questions, stuff. He just impulsively makes his wish. And then when he later calls, the person on the other line, whoever it is, one could interpret to be devil. No, I'm sure that's not the intention of the writers, but that's just sort of, a potential way of looking at it. That's the sort of the flexibility of the way the story was told, is that, he gave them the terms. Bear didn't he could have easily done it, though he didn't. He fell victim to his own weakness and his own lack of confidence and his willingness to be able to be straightforward with Nikki, and just made the wish a naively selfish wish, not weighing the consequences of said wish. And then, of the curse or the possession as you broke based on those same terms. So one can interpret it like that. I don't know why I thought of it like that I had that thought, but it was just, I don't know. I guess it's some sort of like a retort towards a lot of people's, I guess, the whole satanic panic, anti-moral sort of panic around horror movies and stuff, when really, if you think about it, the movie falls within, it's not an amoral sort of nihilistic movie, because if you really look beyond the surface, I mean, it really is a tragedy of errors in terms of the characters just not falling victim to their own lack of strength. I guess part of the power of prayer is not necessarily for can't ask for direct power, but more so strength within yourself to not be tempted and to lead a virtuous life and to be a good person and not fall to the I guess the temptation of being a bad person or making poor decisions and stuff, and to negatively affect other people's lives. And Bear failed that test because he wanted love. And that's another thing too, is that the movie, of course, is Bear in the movie is as much of a victim as he is the perpetrator of it, because he causes the he's a victim of his own wish, but also he wished upon it. And I think his moral failings shows up when she breaks herself out of it and whispers to him in the middle of the night when she's in bed, asks him to kill her. His response is not, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry, I'm going to try to work this out, believe me, I'll try to save you," or "Hey, I don't want to do it," or whatever, or "Hey," like it wasn't like that. His reaction was, "Well, what's wrong with being with me?" It's like, dude, you're way past beyond that point. You know what's going on. You know the wish came true. You know what you're in is not real. So like, why do you still want it? And so he's not as good a person. It's not until the very end where he only loses everything is he willing to do that. Even then, he kind of, second guesses him as soon as he swallows those pills, and then it ends the way it is. I'm thinking about it, and it's like, man, it was just a really well done movie. I just wanted to put it out there in terms of my potential theological implications of the story and how it actually fits within a moral framework that's actually pretty palatable as a cautionary tale, and a pretty excellent use of the monkey's paw sort of trope, literary device or storytelling device. I did notice one thing. I wonder if they were another implication on Bear's lack of moral, innocence, I should say, is in the moment when it smash cuts them, having sex on the bed, and she's kind of looking blankly out, and she's obviously not into it. She's just laying there, and he's, while he's porking her. I wonder if that's the moment when she's suddenly self-aware that she's not in control of her own body, but she's just there. And then, of course, it's probably going to be like an implications of rape. The bear's raping her, and that's kind of fucked up. That's horrifying. So if I'm pretty sure that that's a little bit more of a clear intention from the filmmakers to kind of have that be subtly illustrated in the movie, which again leads to Bear being just a victim of his own weakness, as well as guilty of that, the curse, and inflicting that kind of pain on her. Had he been strong enough, again, had he been strong enough and had enough self-confidence and faith in and of himself, or in of just life in general, he wouldn't have been so desperate to get her love. He would have accepted the fact that she might not be as into him as he's into her, taken the opportunity to be honest with her when she gave him that opportunity, and accept the fact that, hey, if things don't go well there, life goes on. There's going to be other. He should have had enough confidence in himself to know that there's going to be other opportunities in the future. I mean, shit, when he has that moment with Sarah in the shop and stuff, like, they had some genuine chemistry there. I mean, had he, just been patient, this all could have been avoided. Also, too, his friend was kind of fucked up in the fact that he didn't tell him that they were hooking up. He was hooking up with Nikki casually, knowing full well that his friend had such a huge crush on her that it would have either devastated him, ruined the friendship, or something. So he's not without fault either. I think the only truly innocent person in the whole movie would have been Sarah, and tragically she met the possibly the worst fate out of them all. But I guess the moral of the story is, the cautionary state of the movie is just, having faith, not necessarily in a higher power, but faith in yourself, and that just don't be desperate. Don't fall under despair and make yourself do choices and stuff that's impulsive, that you want really what you want, when really you don't trust in the process of life or yourself to work on yourself to get earn what you really want, and to accept what life deals you and just kind of move on. Bear could have easily worked on himself, to his confidence issues, been flat out honest with Nikki, whether or not she would have been receptive of his feelings. He could have been like, all right, cool, well, let's make it work before you go. Or, hey, I just wanted to put it out there, but just now, and then he could have moved on, worked on himself, and then maybe eventually get with Sarah and realize that what he would have had with Sarah would have been way more legit than anything he had with Nikki. It's a pretty it speaks to me in the fact that I can freely admit that I've been there. Every guy has been there. Everybody has to go through those growing pains in life and stuff, and then eventually, as you get older, if things go right, you kind of learn those lessons and accept that going through life. You understand that you end up making more bad shit happen, forcing patience. Things are going to fall back. Things are going to work out so long as you're just calm and relax and have a clear head about things. So it's a little bit of stoicism right there, but I don't know. I'm just I'm just rambling, just having some more spoiler specific thoughts about Obsession. I want to see what you guys think. I don't know. I know there's not a whole lot of engagement on my channel, but considering how popular this movie is, I mean, what do you think of my thoughts on it? I don't know why suddenly I was just thinking about it in a theological sort of a vaguely Christian slant, but I just, this is a thought that I had, because I did notice that some horror movies, as horrific as they are, they do have some sort of a level groundwork. I mean, shit, the original Friday the 13th had that in terms of, the more virtuous and innocent and squeaky clean teenagers typically didn't get killed in those movies compared to the other kids that were, smoking pot and boning and all that stuff. And then you got other movies like Exorcist or like more supernatural possession ones where, require some degree of like a higher power to exorcise said ghosts or demons, you know what I mean? To where, movies like that is the reason why I don't fuck with Ouija boards and seances and all that stuff. I don't know. I'm Mexican. We're pretty superstitious about that stuff, so we try not to fool around with anything we don't know. But anyways, yeah, there's my rambling video and spoiler thoughts and observations and stuff about the movie. Again, rambling. Might have forgotten a few moments, so I mean, this is what it is. But I'd like to hear what you guys think. So if anybody wants to chime in on it, feel free to. I'd like to get a little bit more interaction on the channel. If not, hey, whatever. But anyways, you guys take it easy. I'll see you guys on the next one.